and so glad that you could join us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Viola, you have this amazing resume. You're an educator, a therapist, you're on the board at Royal Roads, on the faculty there, and also you work with transpectives. So you've been doing a lot of variety of work over the years.
Yeah, it all has to do with relationship and where we get stuck in a relationship.
And that kind of ties into the book that you've just written. Tell us about it and what actually just sparked the writing of it.
You know, it was a Christmas Eve, and it was not a stellar Christmas Eve. Relationship tensions were high. And
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Just coming through even the Christmas season.
Yeah.
It's not always the greatest time for people.
Well, because you have these expectations of what's supposed to happen, you have hopes, and then it doesn't happen. And so that was the situation in our family. And even when there were, let's say even the tensions were between two people, everybody feels it. We all become collateral damage.
So is the book focusing on relational tensions or specifically what?
So the book, what it does is it actually takes the tensions that we feel between us and how do you find a way through? It's by going within. So when the tensions were so high in our family, I sat down with one of my daughters and I asked her a question. I said, what is it that you feel about yourself when you're with her? And that took her on a journey where she started questioning and exploring what was going on inside of her, which really gave her some light bulbs. And then
I just want to jump in because you know it's interesting you say that. I was talking with a coworker recently and I asked them a similar question. I said, well, when that person is doing that, what is it and why is it that you're responding that way? Like, what is it inside of you? But for her, that was one of the most challenging things to answer.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And that's the thing is because we have these strong reactions and they inform us about what's the most important stuff that's going on inside. It takes us right to our core. But it's so confusing because how do you figure out what's your stuff and what's my stuff? And if you start looking at what you feel, like the reactions never ever feel good because they may, and you find out things about yourself that you haven't really wanted to look at.
So, okay, so you're talking about tensions, you're dealing with conflict, the realities of who you are and you don't really want to look at it. So where do you actually lead people? Where do you start then? What are the questions to ask?
Well, the question first is always looking at your reactivity and following your reactivity to what it says about who you are. Because significant conflict, the stuff that hangs around, always has to do with identity.
Okay, give us some for instance, like what things could be rocked in my identity?
Okay, so let's say you are having an interaction with somebody and your friend says something and you feel slighted, you feel less than. Or let's say you're having something to do with your parents or maybe it's a spouse and you feel disrespected or you feel neglected. We're not so good at behaving well at times like that.
No.
And when we're under defense, and that's just our brain doing what it does, the threat center goes into high action, and what it wants to do is fend off any threat to who we are. But maybe we're feeling like not enough, or we're feeling inadequate.
So how do you, in the moment, in the heat of a conflict or feeling this tension, then start to just go through in your mind, okay, what is it really that I'm experiencing? Or what am I being defensive about?
So it's the ability to stand still for a little bit longer in that uncomfortable place, rather than just running away from it, actually pressing a pause button if you need to, and just stay there and go, what is it that I feel and why?
So the reality is people hate conflict. I hear it so often. Are you suggesting then that people have to get comfortable with it, that they have to pause in the moment? What if there's just that fear of going there? I don't want to go into this conflict. I'd rather just avoid it.
You know what? And that's the most common response, and we're not going to get away from it. We are all going to be fearful of it because we all have experiences. We start on the track with conflict, we get half the way down, and it goes worse before better. And so what we do is we actually abandon it. We don't make it all the way through. So this is about increasing your capacity for conflict. It's like for discomfort. Stay with the discomfort and realize that there are some real gains to be made. Because the opportunities in conflict give you something that you don't normally get in life, where you get to understand yourself more and you understand the other person more.
You know, we have the tools to fight. Like, we have the hope of the gospel. We have an identity that rests in something that's secure. And so it's not just our brokenness at the end, but it's actually that we're rooted in something so great. And so we can fight. We can fight with that, with those tools.
Yeah, and I think what that should also enable us to do is go through life with God with a gritty realism. It doesn't mean that we're just skating across the top and saying all kinds of things. It's that we're actually looking at what does that mean right now in the light of this, that the other person has just said something about me or they've excluded me. Okay, what now?
Vi, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your insight, and it's been helpful, just your thoughts on conflict. Vi's book, Grateful for the Fight, it's available on Amazon. It also can be found for free, the audio version, at findtheway.tv. So we hope that you'll go online and you'll access that copy.